All right, perfect. Okay, so started. All right, I'm Kobe Smith. I've been in touch with most of you guys setting us up, but yes, I'm Kobe Smith, a realtor with Chateau Seekers at Keller Williams Capital Properties. And today we're pretty much going to be discussing the Baltimore Affordable Housing TIF grant program. I pulled together as much information as I could from the Baltimore City's info session, and I pretty much just wanted to share it with you guys since you guys seem so interested in learning more about it. So, go ahead. Next slide. So, the purpose of this session is to pretty much educate you guys as investors, developers, community members about Baltimore's new $150 million affordable housing TIF program. Pretty much we're going to go over explaining what a TIF is, how the program works, and why it matters for the city's revitalization. We're going to clarify which properties qualify as TIF programs and how to check eligibility. Outline who can apply and what site control means. And break down how grant fundings work and walk through the application process, deadlines, scoring criteria, and all that. And also highlight how investors and developers can benefit from this and answering common questions that they had on their info session. So starting off, what are Baltimore City's vacancy challenges and what are they doing about it? So the vacancy challenges that Baltimore City has seen are is historical disinvestment, pretty much resulting from redlining and neglect created from high vacancy rates. They're having a problem, or Baltimore City was having a problem scaling thousands of vacant abandoned homes concentrated in disadvantaged neighborhoods. And this impact resulted in lower property values, blight, crime, and shrinking tax base. And this is pretty much a barrier for rehab costs, often exceeding property value. So pretty much when you're going to sell a property and the appraisal comes back, or when you're getting appraisal done, there you're seeing an appraisal gap. So what is Baltimore City doing about this? Mayor Brandon Scott took office in December 2020, and he started to reduce vacant property inventory by over 20%. Much of the progress came from the American Rescue Plan Act fund, which supported acquisitions, demolitions, and rehabs. And despite the success, the city still faces thousands of vacant properties concentrated in disinvested neighborhoods. To sustain momentum, Baltimore City launched the VRI, a 15-year plan to eliminate clusters of vacancy through coordinated block level redevelopment. And the new affordable housing TIF program is the city's largest financial tool to date, designed to tackle the appraisal gap and expand rehab at scale. So, what is a TIF? TIF is a funding tool that cities use to support development. A TIF district is created in a specific area. The city issues bonds, borrows money to fund improvement or redevelopment. As properties in this district are rehabbed and property values rise, property tax revenue increases. The new tax revenue is used to repay the bonds. So, what is Baltimore City's affordable housing TIF? So, the affordable housing TIF in Baltimore City is the first ever citywide tax increment financing program. It was signed into law in December 2024, and it provides up to $150 million in grant funding over time to rehab vacant properties and build affordable housing. So what's the purpose? The purpose of this program is to reduce the vacant housing inventory, support block level redevelopment in disinvested neighborhoods, and expand homeownership for legacy residents and bridge the appraisal gap. And the policy goal for this is to create equitable neighborhood development, support emerging developers, especially women and minority owned, and then to grow population and tax base and create a healthier, safer community. So, how does this work? The city sells TIF bonds secured by property taxes in TIF districts. Next, they do that and they get proceeds from the bonds to fund the grants. They're not loans, they are grants for eligible projects. And grants can only be used for hard construction costs. And I'll explain a little bit more about that as we move forward in the presentation. And properties must have a vacant building notice and be in the designated TIF district. And we'll talk more about that as the presentation goes on too. So, who can apply? For-profit developers, nonprofit NCDs, community groups and neighborhood associations, small emerging developers, and individual legacy residents. And how affordable housing TIF is different. How is this Baltimore City TIF different than other TIF programs? So traditional TIF programs cover a specific development area. And typically they support large single developer projects. Bonds are repaid by future property tax revenue from the complete project. And developers may face a special tax to guarantee repayment if the revenue falls short. And they also focus on commercial mixed-use growth rather than housing affordability. This is for the traditional TIF program. This is not for Baltimore City's program. So Baltimore City's program is a citywide program, but it only applies to designated vacant parcels. It supports multiple users, developers, nonprofits, small and emerging builders. And it provides grants, not loans, like I said, for hard construction costs to rehab vacant homes. And there's no special tax. It's city-sponsored and designed to stay affordable for households up to 115% AMI. And it explicitly focuses on reducing vacancy, boosting homeownership, and strengthening neighborhoods. So what properties are eligible and what are the eligibility criteria for this program? So first off, how are properties identified? Properties are identified through Baltimore City's Department of Housing and Community Development through its whole block planning efforts. They are parcels where TIF funds can help achieve whole block outcomes, leverage other funding sources, address community priorities, and support DHCD sponsored development projects. What's the criteria? So all properties in the district meet one or more of these criteria. They have a vacant building notice. They are city-owned vacant buildings. They are eligible for judicial in rem foreclosure, and they were acquired using ARPA or other city funds, and are vacant properties needed for development projects. What are the eligibility rules? All properties in the district meet one or more of these criteria. They must be in the designated TIF district map, and I'll show you a link to that in a few minutes. They must remain vacant at time of rehab, and they must be redeveloped for residential use. And also applicants must show site control, and I'll explain site control and all that as we move forward. All right, so how can you check if your property is eligible? So pretty much go to this link right here, and this is the TIF parcel map tool. When you go to this link, you can type in the property's address, and if it shows up on as a green dot, then that property is eligible. Highly recommend this being the first step if you're planning to move forward with this program, because this will pretty much say if the program's going to work for you or not. So who can apply? For-profit developers, nonprofit and community development corporations, community and neighborhood groups, small and emerging developers, women and minority-owned businesses, and individual legacy residents. They must have site control, which is a deed, lease, and purchase agreement. Eligible use of the funds. So what are the funds can be used for? The funds must go towards hard construction costs tied to rehabbing vacant properties. Examples are demolition, grant and grading and site preparation, foundations, farming and framing, roofing and structural repair, electrical, plumbing, HVAC and fire protection systems. And then that's also elevator alarm security systems, telecommunication wire, interior, exterior finishes, and fixed building equipment. What funds can't be used for? Buying city-owned properties, soft costs like design, architecture, and legal fees, improvements made before site control transfers to the applicant, and non-construction expenses unrelated to the rehab. Grant terms and reimbursements. All right, so grant terms, grant-based funding, TIF funds are provided as grants, not loans, meaning no repayments if program requirements aren't met. No maximum amount. There's no strict cap per property, but funds must be necessary to fill the appraisal gap. And use timeline. Funds must be spent and the project must achieve a use and occupancy permit within 12 months. Site control requirements. Applicants must show clear site control, like I keep saying, within required timeframes. The reimbursement structure. So TIF funds are reimbursed. So grants must front and grantees must front the money and then get paid back. So 90% of the reimbursement after completion of the improvement and certification by a third party inspector. 5% reimbursement after the use and occupancy permit is issued, and 5% reimbursement after proof of occupancy. Application process and timeline. So the application process starts with preparing a review and reviewing the NOFL, which is the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and confirm your property is in the TIF district. That was the link I showed earlier, and it'll also come back up in a second. So site control, demonstrating ownership, purchase agreement, lease, or land disposition agreement. You also must submit the application, and I will have the application deadline information up shortly. So submit the application. Applications are submitted through the Neighborly online portal, and this is the link to that portal. And then threshold review. So the city checks if your application is complete and all required documents are included. So if 3 or fewer documents are missing, there's limited chance to fix it. And if 4 or more are missing, applications are ineligible. So the applications process, scoring review. Applications are scored on a financial feasibility, which is 40%, on project schedule, which is 25% points, applicant capacity experience, 25 points, and site control, 10 points. And I'm going to explain in the presentation what all this kind of means and what you should be thinking about when you get to this part. Next, you have to do awards of decision and decided. The final awards are determined by DHCD leadership and the housing commissioner. Grant agreements are executed between applicant and the city and setting terms, budget, and timeline. Key dates. So this is only round one. They plan to do more rounds of this program, but this is the initial round. And the key dates for this round. So on September 8th, they had the grant application available. September 16th through the 17th, they had their information sessions. On September 17th was the deadline to submit written questions. And then September 19th is when the response to the questions are posted online. September 19th is also when the online application portal actually opens. So that neighborly link that you saw earlier and that you're going to see later on, that link opens on September 19th. And then October 3rd, the submission deadline hits at 5 p.m. And November 6th through the 17th, they're pretty much reviewing the applications and applications are awarded. The scoring criteria, like we discussed earlier. So the scoring criteria, starting off with the financial feasibility, which is 40 points. Pretty much when you're going through this process, this portion of this scoring, you have to think about these things. You have to do, first you need to think about, do you have sufficient financing to place beyond the TIF grant? Are your budgets realistic and do they clearly show grant funds only cover eligible hard costs? And are funds committed with proof? So pretty much since it's a grant and they're reimbursing for it, you pretty much need to know if you're getting a loan or something, do you have a pre-approval? Do you have a letter of commitment? Do you have an agreement or a bank statement saying that you have the funds and you can get to the project done? And to actually get to the point where you can get the reimbursement. Project schedule, which is 25 points. Is your timeline realistic? What are the key benchmarks, including grant agreement execution, building permits, construction start, and use and occupancy permit? And projects must be completed within a year of the grant agreement. So that's pretty much when they award the awardees with the grant. They said that it's going to work, the agreement and all that stuff. That's when the 12 months starts, not when you apply, not when you first submit the application. And then the application capacity, 25 points. Does your team have experience, staff, and partners to complete the rehab? So are you bringing in experienced contractors? Are the contractors capable? Do you have a base knowledge of what you're planning to do with the project? Have you successfully completed a similar project before? If you haven't, it's 25 points of the project and it's not the biggest deal, but if you have, then that definitely can help you. Do you have demonstrated readiness to process now and proceed now? Lastly, which is 10 points, the site control. Pretty much, do you own the property or have a contract, lease, or LDA for the property? Can you show proof that you'll take title within a required timeline, which is 30 to 45 days? And then here's some common questions that they had during the info session. Is there a cap on funds per project? So they responded, no maximum, but funds must only cover eligible hard construction costs and fill the appraisal gap. When are funds reimbursed? 90% after improvements are completed and certified by a third-party inspector, 5% after the use of occupancy permit, and 5% after the occupancy and sale to an eligible household. Can I apply if I don't already own the property? Yes, but you must have site control within the required timeline. Do individuals qualify or only developers? Both. Eligible applicants include individuals, nonprofits, community groups, small emerging developers, and for-profit communities and companies. What type of costs are ineligible? Acquisitions of the city-owned property, soft costs, or improvements made before site control is finalized. Can large projects like 30-unit apartment buildings apply? Only if the property is in the TIF district and has a vacant building notice. The program mainly targets scattered vacant homes. What if I started rehab before applying? Work may not be reimbursed unless it can still be inspected by a third party. Covered up work like electricals behind drywall may not qualify. Will more rounds of funding be available? Yes, this is the first round of up to 150 million in bonds. More rounds are expected in the future years. How do I confirm if my property is eligible? Here's the link again. You can use the city's TIF parcel map tool. If the property shows a green dot, it's eligible. And what to do next? So pretty much next up, you need to check your eligibility, use the TIF property map tool to see if the property qualifies. This is the link for it again. We can also book a consultation, schedule one-on-one to see what your goals are and figure out a strategy that works best. Here's the link for that. Also, feel free to shoot me an email. Stay connected. Follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. And make sure you prepare your application before the deadline so you can take advantage of this first round. Here is the Neighborly link for the application process. Applications close October 3rd. And if you have any more questions about the program or anything, feel free to drop in the comment section or feel free to shoot me an email and I can try to connect you with the representative for Baltimore City to help you out the most. Yeah, here's my information and that's what I got for you guys. I mean, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in the comment section as I am able to.